Yeah. So, yeah. So also talking about comics, have you owned EC Comics or have you got interest in
EC were a bit before my time. But that said, I have. I've got a bunch of reprints of those things, and I I came to EC a bit weirdly. In that as a kid, I was a big collector of Mad Magazine and Mad Magazine paperbacks, which were what EC became after horror comics were banned. And I saw, and I'm still a big fan of those Amicus anthology horror films, and they did Tales from the Crypt. So I was aware of it. In the 70s, there was a really gorgeous, oversized hardcover, which was like an anthology of the best of EC horror. And I had that. I still have it somewhere.
Oh, wow.
And I read it. I loved it. And I remember just being so kind of taken with this that when I finally saw the actual comics, which were of course a third the size and not that great printing, it was a bit disappointing because I'd seen these beautiful things. But no, I if you read them all, they do get a bit repetitive. But it is kind of a key influence on horror as a form. Again, maybe I mix it in with the thing I was saying earlier about that kind of Twilight Zone ambience, and I do associate them very much. And that's what it
what, the Twilight Zone with EC comics?
I mean, they're Robert Bloch, and twist endings, all that kind of stuff is very similar. And the way of using kind of horrific material to make character points, and also just it's a simple formula, isn't it? It's like somebody does something really horrible and something supernaturally ghastly happens to them. It's like I've written maybe one or two stories on that format. It is because it is a format and it is sort of predictable in a way. I haven't gone back to. I've even written stories that kind of address the underlying assumptions of that. But I get it. I mean, I'm not saying that somebody might really annoy me and I'll write an EC horror comic about terrible things happening to them.
I think I heard somewhere, I might be wrong, but I think I heard somewhere that you was once homeless. Is that true? Or?
It's what we now call sofa surfing.
Okay.
So I never had to sleep rough, but and it was after I graduated. I came to London in order to basically find a place to live, find a job, which I never did. I became freelance.
Okay.
So I spent a couple of months, going between various people who would become increasingly fed up with having me invading their place. So I wasn't homeless in the traditional sense of huddling around a fire and sleeping on the streets. But I certainly was homeless in the sense of, I suppose, what I didn't have was I could go home. I could go back to my parents. I wasn't cast out in that sense that a lot of homeless people. But I certainly had the experience of homelessness, which is now, I think, probably much more common than it was then. The idea that you have to depend on first your friends and then radiating out from your friends, their friends, right? And then radiating out from that. It's like, and I did that. I mean, even it's like, I stayed for a while at a flat with somebody who'd been one of my dad's lecturers, and going out like that. And so, there were, and the other thing is through all that, it didn't get me anywhere. In the end, the only way I got somewhere to live was because one of my friends' mothers knew somebody who worked in the estate agent, and so it was all connections as well. And it was a horrible, not horrible place. It was actually it was a grim bedsit that I lived in for a couple of years. But I only got that because my dad was willing to guarantee that I would pay the rent. Yeah, so
that was a bed sit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've done the whole bed sit.
Yeah,
Bed
small seat. Yeah, but yeah, no, and as a consequence of that, and I don't want to make any particular sort of fuss about my enormous suffering, because it really wasn't that bad.
Okay.
At the time, it seemed pretty wretched, I gotta say, and I do.
Because you have to rely on people and not piss people off.
That's right. Yeah, that was part of it. But also, it was a particular time. It was after university, and I spent the summer in Somerset with my parents, and I decided to move to London, perhaps foolishly, around September, October time. So it was bitterly cold, right? And all in all, you know what? It was probably less than 6 weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow!
But
it sounds like a long time when you describe it. Yeah. It was long.
It seemed to go on forever, but also I remember just how cold it was, because obviously you're staying at places where you're on sufferance, so quite often you couldn't go there until like 10 o'clock at night. Yeah. And so I remember sort of. And it's one of the things that I did what homeless people do now. I went to libraries. Yeah, because you could sit there and read, and it was warm, and you didn't have to buy anything. But I also remember going to railway stations and bus stops, and just somewhere to sit that you didn't have to pay for anything. But the fact that it was, and I think it was a particularly cold autumn, probably, and I don't think I've ever been as cold as I was a couple of times there, where circumstances decreed that I had to be out, in the cold at night, and so anyway, I mean, many people have had much worse sufferings. I certainly had advantages. I did it when I was young. I couldn't hack it now.
What was it like to work with Neil Gaiman? Because you've done stuff with
him. Well, I worked with Neil. Quite a lot. He's very inventive. It was a good time. I mean, we got a lot of stuff done. He's a good ideas guy.
He covers a lot of scope too, doesn't he? Like with the Sandman and stuff. Any other writers you would like to collaborate with?
I have collaborated with a whole bunch. I've written with my friend Paul Macaulay. Okay. I wrote a book with Eugene Byrne. I've done bits and pieces, and I've also, of course, I've written, comics is collaboration. So I've done that. I collaborated with another writer on Witchfinder, as well as with the artist, and I've done various bits of theatre and radio. Okay. I co-write Secrets of Cinema with Mark Kermode. So I'd like to think I'm good at collaborating, but also it probably helps that I'm a sort of detail guy as well. I think quite often I tend to end up collaborating with people like Neil and Mark, who have lots and lots of ideas, but maybe sometimes need someone to throw half of them out. And I know in collaboration, I quite often get to be the guy who shapes the material. So it's almost sometimes like being a script editor as well as being a contributor. And it may also be I like that. I like a sense of control.
What's the obvious flaws that happen with collaboration? What's the obvious?
The obvious flaws is other people are unreliable. I mean, that's it. And not particularly the people I work with, and they're not particularly unreliable. But the fact is, you can rely on yourself so much more than anybody else. There are always circumstances that get in the way of people doing things.
So what is your fan base like? Is there a typical Kim Newman fan, or are they from all walks of life?
You know what? I've no idea. I'm just grateful that there are some out there. To be honest,
you meet them in conventions, or?
I meet lots and lots of people. I meet people who say they like my work. I don't see any particular.
Okay.
It's not like, I suppose what I sometimes get is particular pieces of my work appeal to particular people. So, I mean, I've written a couple of books about a girls' school, so obviously that kind of appeals to teenage girls. Yeah. I don't know. I suppose I know Dracula has a lot of goth fans, a lot of fans of history, that kind of stuff. Maybe some of the books I've written on film appeal to a particular type of film fan. I don't really have a sense of me writing for a particular clique or class. I mean, I think of myself sort of as a mainstream writer, and I know there are plenty of things in my work that some people just wouldn't respond to or wouldn't like, and you have to live with that.
When you write, do you sometimes write to actually upset your audience or to?
No, I think you don't want to write. Sometimes I write about things that annoy me, and I assume they will annoy the reader too. And sometimes I don't think I'm a particularly gruesome or confrontational writer, except I did start out in the 1980s, and so it was the era of video nasties and later a bit of splatter punk. It's like, and I don't particularly associate myself with those kind of writers or artists, but I'm aware that I have written very gruesome physical stuff. I've written horror comedy in sort of the EC Comics Evil Dead mode of gruesome, and I've also written kind of quite grueling, confrontational, tough, emotional, political material as well. I let the story dictate it rather than. I don't think I self-censor much. I don't think I've ever thought, no, that's too far to go. I have sometimes thought, no, I can't do that because it wouldn't be good. It's like, oh, I couldn't pull that off, or it's.
Have you written something and regretted it in the past, or just thought I shouldn't have done that?
Not really. Sometimes, I mean, maybe a bit. I haven't gone back and done that sort of woke re-examining of my early work, because I'm sure I was horribly sexist, racist, homophobic, all those kind of things without really meaning it. I mean, because that was the culture at the time. I don't know if I particularly used any. And I speak as a sort of self-described wet liberal. I live in Islington. I've written for the Guardian. I say, but probably. I mean. I've occasionally consciously trying to say about. I'm aware when Anno Dracula was republished, I'd forgotten that there's a gay vampire character in it who's really unpleasant, right? And I had forgotten how unpleasant they were. And it's a character I didn't create. It comes from a short story, and looking at it thematically, it makes perfect sense. And there were some really nasty gay people around in Victorian that are really, really horrible.
In Victorian times?
Yeah, I'm really terrible. I mean, Alfred Lord Douglas is a ghastly human being. I didn't get it. But, so...
Because it was illegal then, wasn't it? So
but in a subsequent Anno Dracula, I did consciously decide to include a gay vampire who wasn't horrible, and I think that was me making. I mean, I don't want to, and I could have, when the book was reissued, I could have rewritten it or cut that character, and I didn't. I left it as it was. But I think now I would be slightly more concerned with representation. If you depict a character who's a member of a minority group, inevitably they come to represent that minority group, and so there's a certain responsibility, and of course the thing is, that's not to say that every time you have a gay character they should be wonderful,
sweet, or
because that's a different type of misrepresentation.
That's also insulting.
That's right. So I have tried to be more open in terms of depicting people who are very different from myself. But hey, I write about monsters a lot as well, you know.
So did anyone who was gay pull you up about this character?
No,
or,
not at all.
No?
Actually, no, it's entirely me. I'm trying to think if I've ever been pulled up on. Occasionally, people have tweet me for writing things I obviously know nothing about, but you know, but it's more I've more often had people get or I've heard people complain about tiny things to do with the rivets on airplanes.
Details.
So maybe, but I say I don't think I'm a particularly egregious offender. In that sense, and I wrote a bunch of things very quickly. So if I picked through all of those, I might find things that I would now regret.
Okay.
But nothing particularly haunts me as something I want to take back.
So you don't get Christian hate mail or anything like that?
No, I don't. I actually I have depicted Christians in a really bad way. The villain of Jago is a clergyman. So but actually I mean I think I've probably had more unsympathetic priests and clergymen in my books, but I'm sure I've had decent human beings as vicars as well. But say being brought up outside any particular established religion, it's not something that occurs to me much.
Do you think horror works better in film or literature?
A certain type of horror does work better in movies. The kind of scary,
gore.
Jump up, jump scares. They're kind of hard to do in books, but I know people have done them. But there's something about the lingering atmosphere of dread that only books can do. And it's really difficult to film H.P. Lovecraft because he keeps using adjectives like undescribable or indefinable or whatever. And that's all right, except when you turn it into a film, Cthulhu just looks like angry tentacles, doesn't it? It's almost inevitable, and so that kind of horror works very well. But you could say the same about anything. Does it work better in film or literature? Probably westerns work better as films. Although I've read some really great western novels.
Yeah. Anything to end on?
No, I mean, buy my books, you know, in that kind of passive aggressive way. Always mention what I've done recently. Like I say, I've got my latest novel is Anna Dracula 1999 Daikaiju.
Okay, wow.
That's it.
That's your most recent one then?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Brilliant. Thank you for that. Cheers.
Oh, thank you.
Cheers.